In 2002, when Quentin and I got married, one of the greatest gifts out of that marriage was his 2 daughters, and I became a mother to them when I married him. And in 2006, our younger daughter was really having some real difficult challenges, and was returning back to Kansas and didn't want to, because in Kansas there were her usual crowd, and she didn't want to go back there. And so as I was thinking of that, I thought, and I'm the one who knew at a very young age that I didn't want to have children, and I really thought I didn't have a maternal bone in my body. But somehow, when she needed a place to go, I knew that Quentin and I needed to do something. We were living far away in Maryland, and I thought, you know, maybe we need to find some place to live closer to Kansas. And at the time, he had a full-time job. I had a business that was portable and could work anywhere. So we decided to start looking around the country to see where we wanted to live, because he didn't necessarily want to go back to Kansas. So we looked at a number of cities in a certain radius around there, and we decided on Dallas because of my family issues. My parents were not in good health at the time, and I needed to be able to be in a place where I could get on a plane quickly. So we decided to come to Dallas for the weekend, and we looked around for a couple of days, and after about 2 days of looking at houses and spending time with a real estate agent, we were actually in the car getting ready to go back to the airport, and the real estate agent, Debbie, said to us, "So what do you think?" And Quentin said, "We're moving here." And I said, "Alrighty then. We're moving to Dallas." And somehow, because of our relationship, I just had a conviction that when he said something and I knew he was feeling it, that I said, okay. And I was fine with that. So we went back to Maryland, put our house on the market, and had a contract signed in 2 days.
Wow.
It happened so fast. And we thought, oh, we need to go find a house. So we flew back to Dallas in about 2 weeks, found a house that we love, the house that we're in now. But at this point, he still hadn't asked his boss about could he work at home from Dallas. But at the time, his boss, his oldest son, was dying of cancer. And we didn't feel it was the time to go to him and talk about this issue, because Larry's death was imminent. So this was a very sacred and challenging time for them. But we still had this knowingness, this trust that we were supposed to be here, and we had a contract on a house. So we go back and we start packing. He still hasn't talked to his boss, but we're still at peace with this decision, having this deep trust and conviction that we were doing the right thing, even though on paper it looked like a major disaster. And within a couple of weeks, we're still packing. I think we were mostly packed when Quentin finally found a good time to talk to his boss. And Mark said, of course, you can work from home in Dallas. And we thought, okay. And within 2 more weeks, we were here. So from the time we signed that contract to the time we landed here with all of our belongings was 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And none of that should have made sense. Every single thing, as people said, I don't know that you'll be able to move across country. It was some 1,500 miles, and buy another house, move in. We had 2 cats that needed to be transported in the car with us. They didn't think any of that could happen smoothly the way we knew that it would, because we trusted. And it did. It happened so fast and so easily, it almost made our heads spin. We landed here, and we were just here. And I thought, oh my gosh, look what's happened. So that's one instance where we trusted. Just had a deep conviction in knowing about what we were to do in our hearts. Another time, which I think I've talked about before, was when my father was dying, and he was in ICU, and I remember my mother calling me the morning he was taken to the hospital, and she said he could stop breathing at any time. And usually that was my signal to head up to New Jersey. I mean, that's why we moved here close to a major airport so I could get on a plane. But again, I had a deep conviction and knew I wasn't supposed to get on a plane yet. And I didn't. And everybody else in my family was heading to New Jersey to see my father. And I didn't right away. And it wasn't until days later, after he came out of ICU, that I had the knowingness that it was my time. And when I did, everybody else had gone home. So my dad and I had these 4 days together, just about by ourselves, right before he made his transition. The most precious 4 days of my life. And I wouldn't have had that if I had not listened and trusted what I knew to be right for me. That still small voice that had talked to me and said, it's not your time right away, wait. Again, all the evidence was to the contrary, that I should go. Because my mother kept saying, this isn't good. He could die at any moment. But I held firm because the message was, don't go yet. But I trusted. And I had faith. Conversely, I've had other instances in my life when I have not trusted. I had a mentor when I was writing my book who helped me through those last weeks of getting that done. And after I had finished my book and it was published, she had asked me if I would train her in the business that I had at the time, which was investigating discrimination complaints for federal government. And this is someone I trusted highly. I mean, she helped me with my dream. And so when she asked me, all of a sudden, internally, I'm hearing, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Red flags all over the place. Internally, I just had this unrest. And I did it anyway. And it was not good. Things just kind of blew up, such that within weeks of that, actually it was a couple of months, she and I were no longer friends. She lied to me about a couple of things, and it was just a deep sense of betrayal that I had. And even though we talked and made peace with it, our friendship was damaged forever. And I wished her well as I said goodbye, and it was painful and hard. But probably if I had trusted the still small voice and not gone through that period, she might have still been angry with me when I said no. But maybe we still would have had a friendship. So trust is paramount. Trusting the still small voice. Sometimes the still small voice is about small matters. We've talked about this before. Things like take your umbrella when the sun's shining. Again, no rational reason for me to take my umbrella. But then hours later, we got a thunderstorm. There was no reason for me to take it. However, we have this internal voice always speaking to us and guiding us, an inner GPS, if you will. And sometimes we ignore it and go the other way. But that's our intuition. And I looked up the root of intuition. And it comes from the word intuit, which means to perceive directly without reasoning. to know by immediate perception. You know immediately, and you either heed the advice or you don't. And I think this is where our faith comes in. Faith to know that what we're hearing is the right thing to do or say, or to not do or say. And sometimes it can have disastrous consequences if we don't follow the advice, because we think we know better, or that it looks better on paper if we do what our intellectual mind tells us, and we ignore the heart or the still small voice. It's interesting, as I was thinking about this talk at 3:45 this morning, and wondering still how it would all come together, that also is an exercise in faith and trust for me. Because I had bits and pieces of this talk, but still didn't know what it would look like. Actually, by the time I went to bed last night, all I knew was the word trust. And I was a little antsy when I went to bed, thinking, alrighty, I got one word. I need a few more to make 15, 20 minutes. But you know, every day we get these lessons about, are we going to believe? Are we going to have faith? What is my intuition telling me? My intuition was saying, right now, all you have is this word, and it's enough right now. And then as I was thinking this morning at 3:45, the word faith came up. And then the word intuition came forward. And then all of a sudden, the acronym F.I.T, faith, intuition, and trust, FIT, was in my mind. And I thought, if I am fit spiritually, then I always have this deep knowingness in my heart and through all of my being that something that's presented to me right now is the right thing to do. No questions. No doubt. No questions. No doubt. How often do we have this deep knowingness that there are no questions, that there is no doubt, and we move forward? In the times when we said we're moving without him having his job taken care of, none of that made sense. We had just signed a mortgage. We wouldn't know if he was going to have a job when he got here. We just knew it was going to be okay. You just know. So I think being fit spiritually is about faith. The deep conviction that we have or don't have. And our intuition, whether or not we're listening to it. Are we tuned into it daily? Are we in our meditation time? Do we recognize the voice when it speaks? What does it sound like? I know the difference between the still small voice and my mind speaking to me. I can discern my Father's voice when he speaks to me, even though he made his transition years ago. And I know the difference between that and the still small voice because I spend time in the quiet. Be still, my soul. Be still and know that I am God. But we got to be still. We got to be quiet so the voice can rise up. And when you practice hearing it, you know it in an instant. Immediate knowing. Immediate knowing beyond reasoning. Because every single thing that the still small voice has said to me did not make sense on paper. Didn't make sense. Didn't make sense that I should not trust my mentor when she asked me to train her. We've just been through this wonderful experience together. And here was Spirit telling me, don't do it. And my thought was, what could you know? Right? I knew better. Or thought I did. And drove that situation right into the ditch. Man, was that a hard lesson to learn. I was heartbroken when that happened. Heartbroken. We haven't spoken since. It's been years. So what are we going to do? Do we want to be fit spiritually? Are we going to use this faith, intuition, and are we going to trust? Jesus did. And Charles Fillmore says, this is from the 12 Powers book, it was not Jesus, but the mind in Jesus that did the great works. He was the center of faith that transformed the mighty creative forces of being, which are active in the universe through the mind and brain of man, into a form of force usable in his environment. It was the mind of Jesus. And Jesus says we have the same mind. You also will do greater things than this if we have the same consciousness. It's all there. So we can step forward every single day of our lives in deep, deep conviction. Ignoring everything that says, do the opposite. The people you love giving you messages, the people you work with, the fact that you don't have a job nailed down, but you got a new house in another state. Yes. So the great things that we do may seem small at the moment, but it's all a part of this walk of faith that we do every day. Faith, intuition, trust. Let's be fit, of sound spiritual being, like having a fit body, a sound, fit, strong body, a strong steel trap of beingness that unwavers with the chaos around us. Right? Remember we talked about being the eye of the storm. We are it. And we just call upon it. Just like Jesus did before all of his miracles. When we talked about last week, when he commanded the man who was crippled and told him to get up and walk, he wasn't thinking, oh God, what if he can't walk?
This better work.
Yeah, he didn't say, oh, this better work. What if I do if he doesn't? Right? There was no instance in his thinking where there was going to be a, oops, that, oh. He didn't get up. You know, he tried again. Grab your mat and get up. No, really. Grab your mat and get up. He just said, get up and walk. And the man got up and walked. That's what we need to do in our lives. Command it to be so and stand in it firmly without wavering. Without wavering. Standing firm in faith, listening to your intuition, and trusting